Okay, here we are again, and I wanted to actually do the painting this morning. So you have it, and you can see my procedure. I've done a few things. I'm going to switch this around. I'm going to do it with the grid. One of the things I have done, I have made a bunch of grays on my palette. I'm using the titanium white and the ivory black. And as I said, I made up some piles just because it will make it go faster. I've laid out some brushes. I have my black peepholes, my value scale, my proportional dividers, and I will now set this up so that you can see what I'm doing. I have to say this was a real trick to figure out how you were going to see what I'm painting and my palette, but I think I've got it figured out. Now you won't be able to see the actual still life. Can't show everything to you. But I've got myself positioned so that I can see the still life. And the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the charcoal lines. And I'm going to, all right, that's not coming. I have to say that this was quite a trick in figuring out how you could see my panel as well as my palette. This should work. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the charcoal lines. And since that's a two-handed job, I've had to clamp my palette up there. So I'm going to very carefully wipe that out. I'm using this kind of darker value. It's sort of a 7. I even got a new clean rag for the occasion. Now you've all done this except Claire. I'm not sitting in the right spot. I'm not sitting in the right spot to see the still life accurately. I think this one keeps moving on me. I don't have tape under it. I'm going to do a little measuring here. Yeah, that's about right. I'm not wiping off any more than I can't really remember where the line was. And there's a little bit of charcoal that gets into the panel that I can't get out. By the way, for this, I'm using a number 2 Monarch filbert. That's the Winsor Newton that I recommend you all get. Nice little brush. There. Now, I think I'm probably going to put a table edge in here. Okay. So now, I think I'll develop this back egg a little bit. And here's where your peepholes come in handy, because I can hold this in front of the still life. You can't see me doing this. And then I can see where that's going to be and compare them so that they're the same. So I'm going to start with this middle tone and see where that leaves me. And see how that looks. However, I'm going to go behind this. And that shadow comes in kind of like that. And it gets a little lighter. And it gets a little lighter as it goes here. So I guess I'm going to kind of do the background. A Bob Ross, I definitely am not. He would have had 200 egg paintings under his belly before he started doing this, and I haven't done eggs in years, so. Bear with me. I don't want this to get too light because the egg is white. But I have a nice gradation here, and that's because the way the light hits the still life and there's this nice shadow from the edge of the box. In case you haven't figured this out by now, setting up the still life is like 2/3 the battle. Oh, let's go add some of this back up in here. I'm gonna wipe my brush. Get that back up in there. All right. Now there's your cast shadow that we were talking about. And there's another one. There's another one back here. My arm's getting tired again. I'm not used to painting without the maul stick. All right. Which I'm going to get. I wish I could say this isn't awkward, but it is. All right. I now have, this is the number 4 Brislan filbert, which I use for the background. And then I was using the 2 Monarch for the drawing. I started the egg with a number 2 Brislan. So I have a gray brush there. And now I'm going to have a white brush. So I want to get this on here as a starter. Now that's your light. We talked about the 6 different values in a object. The egg is not really going to have a highlight, but we're going to darken this just a little bit. This is going to be the mid-tone, and I'm going to add this in here just a little bit, because if we do put a little highlight on it, you can't see a white highlight against a white light tone, so I have to change that just a bit. All right, so now I have my light tone, my mid tone, And that goes kind of like that. Now we'll go back and get that more gray tone. So I have the white brush, and then this is the gray one. Now, one of the things that's hard for me to explain, but I can definitely see it from here, is that this, where this shadow turns, this is darker. That's your darkest part because it's not picking up reflected light. So that's your shadow tone. And this whole thing back here has reflected light. And it's, if I squint real hard at it, it's just about the color of the background. So I'll have to make an adjustment there somewhere. I think for right now, we'll just lighten that a little bit. One of the things that's helpful to think about when you're creating your own piece is to have light against dark and warm against cool. But that's not always going to happen, of course, but you can try. And more of the reflected light's going to be down here because it's bouncing off of this surface. All right. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting I need this up here so you can see. Okay, so you have the light area, the midtone, the shadow area, the reflected light, the cast shadow. Now I'm going to take this brush I started out with, a little Monarch. And I'm going to put a real dark underneath the egg, which is just going to set it down here a little bit. Like that. That really helps, doesn't it? Okay. And as you all know, I'm not an alla prima painter, so I'm just kind of working on this. I'll get as far as I can with it. Well, I lost that, didn't I? All right. They just kind of blend in together. This is sitting down, oops, sitting down too far here. All right, well now let's do another one. I'll do the back one now. I have to put this down a second because I want to use the, well, I don't think I can do this with one hand. No. I want to use the peepholes. Okay. This needs to be lighter. Now I'm going to jump right in here and get this dark going. You can probably start to see how much this is all about value. There's a interesting little reflected light right here. Oops. Sorry. All right. I'm going to go in here and do this dark. I'm going to exaggerate that cast shadow a little bit so it connects to the egg. That's just a little design thing. And this is really dark back here. See, my table is actually, or the back of the box is about up there. But I'm not going to do that, and I'll suggest it. And we'll take that dark over there too. That kind of all connects it. And I'll get my white brush back. I've tried to keep that one clean. Let's see. I want to blend this in a little bit. add a little reflected light down here. Now, one of the things I've done in drawing all this is making sure these negative spaces are the same. And you look for things like, okay, where does this point, when you're looking at your still life, where does that point fall on that egg? Where does this point fall in relationship to this crack? Where does this little point fall in relationship to this egg over here? The whole key is measuring. You can measure like, all right, so the bottom of this egg hits about the top of this break here. And you just look for things like that and measure everything. Now, you look for the differences also. All right. I'm gonna put some more black under here. Set those little suckers down in there. Actually, I think this could use some more white here. Whoops. That got too dark. Lost it. That's a nice little light streak to put back there because it indicates there's space between these two eggs. Now I have told you I haven't done that many egg paintings, but I can tell you I've done a lot of tables. And I'm kind of changing the light a little bit. And if I wanted to, and I'm not too sure that I do, because we'll probably be glazing the background. But what's kind of cool is if you make it kind of jagged, like it's kind of a beat up table. And then you take, for the edge of the table, like I don't know whether I can do this with it being so wet. See, with a few marks, you can make this say table. I'm not getting this. I'm just using white right now. And you're wondering what I'm doing. I'll show you. So with a little darker color, and if you want to, you can put some grain in there. Well, I think for now, I'm just going to keep it plainer. And for now, we're going to leave it at that. But actually, I see a couple things I want to do. Like that. And this could be darker back here. And one of the reasons that I changed the position of this these eggs and I switched them, because I really felt that the texture on this one was the made this the focal point, because it is the most interesting. And I think we can kind of cheat with a highlight here. I'm going to just go in and get some this, and I'm just going to go tick, and there, and then here. I got too much paint here. So they're a little harsh. I don't want them to make the eggs look like they're wet. Okay, now you very clearly can see the highlight, the light area, the mid-tone, the shadow, the reflected light, and the cast shadow. This needs to be smoothed out a little bit. Now that's kind of a hard edge. So I'm going to darken this just a little bit and do a little zigzag here. Wipe my brush and smooth that over, because I want that to blend in the background. I don't want it jumping out. And the areas that are the highest contrast are where the eye goes first. Now, I'd like to hit this more with the white, but there's just too much paint on there. And there's a lovely little edge right here that's just really bright. And there's another one up here. And I'm just laying the paint on there. As I say, I'm not alla prima, so let this dry a little bit, or let it dry, and then I can hit those highlights again, because I've kind of lost them. Just kind of blending that together. Oops. Okay, one egg painting. So there's the eggs in the box. There's my painting. It was rather awkward, and I can sit back and see some differences right now, but anyway, I couldn't see it as well as I would have liked to. When this is dry, I'll probably beef up some of those lights a bit. Till then, bye. I forgot to mention that when you're done, and you can see both of your painting and your setup, use your mirror to compare. You can use your mirror periodically as you paint. I wasn't able to do that because of the way this setup is, but perhaps you can do it. Because remember, your mirror is your best friend. It's an extra pair of eyes, and you can see your drawing mistakes. And so use it. Have it at your fingertips. Bye.